product of. So the product that I am of and have become is as a result of people who inspired. Everything starts with a past, and that is so important that we are, by way of our heritage, rooted enough, by way of culturally being grounded sufficiently, so that we can compete in that multicultural table, even not allowed to us, but on the basis of the barriers, the hurdles and the obstacles, we are again able to navigate and negotiate on the basis of the shoulders upon whom we stand. So, what you've heard is as a result of other people's inspiration and motivation. I wanted to share that with you because so much of what we do requires an encouraging word. It requires a moment in time in history. How many of us have had something negatively said to us, or experienced so much that is the negative? But it's that one positive, silent at times voice of positive word, positive thought, positive deed, positive action, that gives the Good Samaritan parable something of relevance and significance. At the age of, my mother and father came, my father came post-Windrush, my mother came, pre-Windrush, my mother came post-Windrush. They met, they produced me and my sister. I was born in Wolverhampton. At the age of 7, my father died and my life changed. And we've always been able to adapt to change and tragedy and adversity. As a result, as a young widow, she would lose the house because women could not have a mortgage. They couldn't have an independence. I do actually remember spending 2 hours with some officials that I was to realise now were Bernardo's officials. And I remember them being very upset at her taking one of the most strongest and most powerful decisions of emancipation, being the fact that her children would stay with her. And there is something I want to say, because I'm about young people. That's my thing. That's what I've been put on this earth to do. God's blessed me with that ability, so I use it. We all have a God-given gift. I believe that fervently. But it's what we do with that gift and what we do with that potential that defines us and defines the me and the we. So on that basis, my mother moved to the East End of London, where the colour of my skin was not negotiable, but my accent was. Everything that what we believe, belong, identify, look like, sound like, will determine what we get or what we don't get. Stereotypes are real, they're a fact of life, but it's great to disprove them. It's great to overcome them. I was asked to sign something and put identity, I had to put a line through it, because I'm now comfortable in my skin. I am a citizen of the world. I'm completely comfortable with my rights and responsibilities. So I can challenge everybody and anybody, because I'm pretty much blessed with a 6'5" frame, and I do know how to defend myself, but I do know how to attack, but intelligently, with a purpose. So the East End of London, you are in that environment, and I always pay tribute to the National Front, because without them, I wouldn't have wanted to go and defend myself and go to a crafty class. I was an entrepreneur because my mother said in Vice Cooperative, you will work. So I sold West Indian patties at school. I made £8 a day. If I'd have fulfilled that ongoing potential, I would not be here talking to you today. No chance. Alan Sugar was in our school and I'd made more money than him. So everybody has a journey and a past. And they have a potential and a future. But I was always looking for inspiration. Now, this individual inspired me. Why? By the way, my mother used to pay for fights of her friends at school. So in other words, give me your fight, I'll pay you for it, and I'll go and have a bit of a scrap. She was a warrior. But in that space and in that time, the values were always pretty consistent. You are no better than anybody, they are no better than you. How you wish to be treated is how you wish to be treating people. Very simple. Something transcendent of anybody, depending on that basis of what they happen to believe, belong, and identify with. Bruce Lee was cool. He was told he couldn't do something, he wouldn't achieve something, and he wouldn't become the phenomenon he was to become. And in those 70s, where I was growing up around looking for something different as well, I had enough within my local church group. I had strong males and females, that balanced, relationship balance. But very quickly, he was the one that went to Hollywood. He was the one that produced Enter the Dragon. He's the one that I queued for an hour and a half, risking my mother's chastisement. And my mother's serious chastisement was serious. So there was something that would captivate. And it's so important that we're able to captivate and engage young hearts and minds. Because their software is very advanced there, it's very informed. But the knowledge of their heritage is not as well informed. And the tools that they have means their thumbs are the most interactive and physically active part of their anatomy? How does the artificial intelligence not be at the expense of the ultimate blessed software intelligence? And intellect and intelligence are two different things. So the emotional intelligence that is literally taught out of our young tries to replace learned and taught learning, not to the level of professorships and academic environments, but to the point where they become disaffected educationally and begin a journey that sees the mental health issues and incarceration and the graveyards, and then Jones just wonder, see me stand up here today, and you, and you, and you, and you, see us as an endangered species, and you, and you, and you. We are an endangered species. But what I want to say is, are we on the endangered list? Because that's still down to us. Bruce Lee inspired me. Once I did karate, I started to shape what I want to do, because I had goals. I got my black belt, a physical curriculum, mental, physical and emotional development. Now, something by way of my mother's strict discipline, I was able to apply myself. But I was growing up in a world being influenced by a civil rights movement, by a Black Power movement. Angela Davis was my poster girl. Soulhead Brothers saw me wearing a black polo neck in 80 degrees of heat in 1976. I didn't care. I had something that gave me an identity. James Brown told me I was black and I was proud. I had Rumble in the Jungle, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, a profound impact on my psyche. Profound. Mobutu was corrupt, but hey, everybody's corrupt. It doesn't discriminate. But it wasn't just about sport, it was culture, it was arts, it was economic, it was political. And at that time we didn't have all that choice of major events. It was the event, the single most important event to have come out of Africa. And it brought everybody from the diaspora. But those civil rights and those movements were being changed by university institutions, because young people have changed history. Whatever we look at, whatever has been realised, whatever's been impacted upon, young people have changed it. They've game changed it, they've smashed it, they've made it happen. When I met Angela Davis, it was the ultimate moment. She was in Hackney on a lecture tour, and we spoke. And I talked about the time where she was the most wanted woman in America. She's now one of the most celebrated academics and professors in America. And she told me about sitting on the fence. Said it's about being on the left side, the right side, or the wrong side. Said don't sit in the middle for too long, or you'll get very sore. And it was so practical in the essence of what she shared with me as I applied it. And don't forget, at that time, I had Arthur Ashe at Wimbledon, winning the Wimbledon title. For the first time, I saw a brother of the diaspora use mental behavioural rehearsal. Jimmy Collins was behaving like a brother, and Arthur Ashe was behaving like a brother from another mother. Another truly inspirational global sporting humanitarian who advocated that sport was not for sport, it was for education's sake. It was about empowerment and bettering yourself. It wasn't about the winning, it was most definitely about the characteristics of life character development. But all these people had an impact. A warrior poet, someone who could walk his talk, someone who decided on an issue of his own religious beliefs would see him go from a Christian to a Muslim, because he felt it didn't relate to him. A belief that would see him at the peak of his sporting powers, and as the most celebrated and recognised sportsman in the world, he would avoid a draft of the Vietnam War and lose his 3 best years. But he went onto university campuses when we take the challenge into opportunity. He sowed a seed in students that transcended what he looked like. And they were to become, as they progressed into leadership roles, mindful of the words that he imparted to them. But many say he was simply a boxer. No, much more than that. Arthur Ashe went to the UN. He advocated his philosophy. He went to South Africa during the time of apartheid. But everything he built, everything he worked for, was destroyed within a year. He did, however, come to Brixton after the riots. He came to the streets of Brixton, the first global icon to come to the streets of Brixton. And he set up the Arthur Ashe Inner Cities Tennis Programme. Not one player has evolved from that programme since the 80s. Not one. But as somebody who left an indelible mark on the diaspora and beyond, he was truly unique. I'm following the theme of tennis because it is one of the truly still existing environments where the glass ceiling is still double glazed. I speak from a personal experience because my oldest son should be playing the ATP Masters in London. But so you understand that we're still on a very long journey of emancipation. By the way, we are free. We are certainly not emancipated. Emancipation has a completely different term. That means you have socio-economic impact, and therefore you have political leverage. And unless you have that, I'm afraid we're not even in the game. We've been consistently, not failed, but we have failed ourselves. This is about the we. It's not about what people are going to do to us, but what we're going to do for ourselves and together. So when I hear about a Nigerian, and a Jamaican, and a Trinidadian, and a Guyanese, I do sometimes suggest the second passage, which saw all of our tribes in that hold, which no one wants to talk about, the indignity and inhumanity of that journey, but the success that we survived at Liverpool Dock meant we were a super diaspora. We were an extraordinary diaspora. And on that basis, should be a passing on that incredible journey of inspirational leaders and leaderines upon which we could take pride, humbly albeit, but confidence on whose shoulders we stand upon. And why we should be able to compete with our young, able to hold their own. But are they in this present moment in time? The Williams sisters have demonstrated that. A father reads a book, Richard Williams goes to a library, says, my daughters are going to play tennis. He goes to downtown LA, he negotiates with some gang members, he moves the drug vials from the courts, and they play. And he does this every single day. That repeated learning of adversity, but having your eye on the prize, is so critical. Madiba believed that sport could build a nation, rebuild and heal. I was very privileged, after achieving all that I've achieved and what you've heard, to be part of that delegation that went to South Africa, that would see how we could build a nation through sport. And I learned everything that suggested why sport was something far much more than I believed it had been and reflected my career. I thinking it was about the me of the rostrum, but the we of what happened once you left that rostrum. The post-apartheid South Africa experience talking about Ubuntu, talking about Steve Biko. Biko, an absolute hero of the struggle, who coined Ubuntu and the community empowerment model. An absolute genius conceptualization said we don't have money, we have spirituality, we have practical gifts, we become interdependent, we become cohesive, and we deliver our needs on a day-to-day basis. So I went into those townships, and I've been to the favelas, and I've been to the projects. It's nice how they term them. But ultimately, if the village brings up the child, and we move into communities, is it not a case where society are bringing up our child, and then we're giving them back with the software confused or damaged? So again, I say, on the basis of what role I believe sport, culture, arts, and now digital can now engage our young hearts and minds, providing intergenerational equipping with the life skills, resilient, and ability, ultimately, that will see them empowered, whether it be to further higher education, employability, or enterprise. Because, again, the diaspora have to be entrepreneurially creative. It's part of our DNA. We have to make something with nothing. That is our gift. It's why we're still here. Whether it's omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscience, whatever spiritual is practical, but it must be sustained. And the momentum of that will always come from those who start humbly and are then exalted. Because your efforts are rewarded, they're recognized, and they're respected. Faces in the Crowd was inspired by just that. I met a young man in Moss Side. He said he was lost, and it had a profound impact on me. And I asked him what he wanted to be, and he told me he wanted to be a footballer. I said, if you want to be a footballer, you're going to have to count the money, read the contracts, and be able to negotiate and be interviewed in the press. And you're going to have to be able to do deals, and you have to invest your money wisely. And I said, there are about 20 careers that support you as a footballer. And they're going to make more money than you, and they'll have a longevity beyond you. And I went away, and he said he'd been inspired by me, but I felt very guilty. So if I've switched him on, I have a responsibility to keep him switched on. I have no right to switch someone on, emotionally or spiritually, and then leave them soulless in their ability to realise their potential. So I decided that we could come up with something, and there are different subjects, whether it's politics, whether it's civil rights, whether it's music, whether it's sport, there's enough there to engage. And when I say if you're using your thumb time, go to your mobile phone. By the way, the biggest threat or emancipation opportunity to our current generation, the millennials, artificial intelligence rather than a soulful intelligence. But ultimately, they can find the face, go to Google, go to Wikipedia, go to YouTube, go to heritage sites. There's a blended offer, a holistic offer. That word holistic is used so much, but greatly misunderstood. Because it means it must be sustained. It means it must be reviewed. I share with you now, at the expense of 1 month to 11 months, give me 11 months of Black history, and I'll forego 1 month. I have no subscription of 1 month. How can we be assessed and considered in a month? It cannot be right. Other subcultures have 1 day. Don't you think there's a subconscious resentment building up to us over that 1 month? Would you not agree? And does that not determine that we're not at that equal table of a multicultural, diverse Britain? We're nowhere near it. Because whilst they keep landlocking us, mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, culturally, and spiritually, we're nowhere near to be seen. But that belief, belonging, identity suggests every single of those individuals have a story that tells you anything we're trying now, they had less. So if they had less then, and they succeeded, why are we not succeeding now with everything? By way of the laws, by way of the so-called education, the health, all these policies, all these reasons, why are we not succeeding? It comes back to our core, soul and spirituality. It comes back to why we're not intergenerational, why we're not the village, the community, the society. Because at the end of the day, Africa is the birthplace of civilization. We are all Africans. Can anyone handle what that meant? 2002, I took some young people after the Commonwealth Games to South Africa. We went to the Apartheid Museum, you walked into an entry, the blacks became whites, the whites became blacks, and they were greeted with those 2 lines. And it completely, emotionally traumatized half of the group who didn't look like me. They couldn't understand it. They came out of that experience enlightened. And they said, we've been lied to at school. I said, that might well be true, but now you can go back and tell your truth of experience. Because there is no better educator than by doing. And if we are a doing people, and we now have learning people, we have to be able to strike a balance. They call it the yin and the yang. It might be the right or the wrong. It might be the love and hate, but where we are now, I believe, is at a very critical crossroads. Whether it wishes to be post-Brexit, whether it wishes to be Trump's America, we've been sleepwalking. And we really do need to wake up to where we are and where we are likely to end up. Those images my brother showed at Stoke Newington was all too frequently displayed, is where I grew up. It is still not safe to be stopped. Certainly not right to be searched. But let me tell you something now, do not get into a van. Because if you end up in a cell, God knows what will happen to you. But with a mobile phone, you have rights that can be applied. Now you're using it within the way that can help demonstrate to them that you do have a mind that's active, it's alert, it's adaptive. It can make